In the run-up to World War II, France spent almost a decade building the famous Maginot Line. 450 miles of concrete bunkers and weapon installations protected the country from impending invasion, and it was heralded as a work of military genius. Because if everything went in France's favor, the plan was simple: hold off German forces long enough to mobilize a massive counterattack. But of course, things did not go in France's favor. Germany got past this modern Great Wall the simplest way it knew how: by walking around it. Based on Germany's strategy during World War I, French officials assumed the attackers would avoid the rough terrain of the Ardennes forest. But Germany revised its battle plans, sweeping through the weak point in the Ardennes, rendering the southern defenses useless. The Maginot Line has since become a parable for grandiose efforts that offer no real security. I'm reminded of the Maginot Line every time I play They Are Billions. Developed by Spanish studio Numantian Games and released in early access 2 months ago, this RTS punishes anyone who refuses to adapt. If you don't learn from your mistakes, you'll likely die. They Are Billions seems initially simple, but it hides a multitude of layers. It takes place in a procedurally generated steampunk post-apocalypse. You have to build a new colony, expand it, and defend it from increasingly large waves of zombies. This may sound like a combination of tired tropes, but it's actually remarkable how well they all come together. It's one of those rare games where every detail is essential to its personality and design. The procedural generation, for instance, forces you into a survivor's mindset. In one match, you can force the zombies into a choke point between the cliffs and a nearby lake. In the next, you have to expand your colony much sooner to take advantage of an iron deposit for your sniper's weapons. The unpredictable placement of forests, coastlines, and zombie villages forces you not to master specific maps, but the actual rules of the wasteland. It's not about memorizing the same terrain over and over again. It's about learning resource management and troop placement so you can make the best of each random landscape.
Aren't there other units to bother?
As for the steampunk trappings, these too play a pivotal role in the mechanics of the game. Yes, the cel-shaded valves and steam whistles are vibrant and gorgeous, but they also solve the perennial challenge of RTS base construction. Some games solve this with limited build plots. Others expand outward from something like a construction yard. They Are Billions, however, lets you snake your base around lakes, through canyons, and into the far corners of each map. You accomplish this with Tesla coils. Build one, and it provides energy to nearby farms, turrets, and other Tesla coils. By the late game stages, you'll likely have dozens of these towers strung throughout the landscape, powering your post-apocalyptic colony. In its own clever way, They Are Billions lets its setting drive its gameplay. And of course, this also rings true for the game's undead horde. We've seen zombies in dozens, if not hundreds of games over the past 25 years. They've shambled through every genre, on every platform we've owned. And as the zombie trope oversaturated games, as well as TV and film, it became an ironic commentary on itself. A lifeless husk, limping forward with no end in sight. But the zombie stories that stuck with us were the ones that understood why zombies could be compelling to begin with. Resident Evil used them to constantly morph your expectations of Spencer Mansion. Left 4 Dead, which actually turns 10 this year, used them to create cooperative survival scenarios. Shaun of the Dead satirized the simultaneous terror and ridiculousness of the undead masses. They Are Billions joins the pantheon of memorable zombie tales. In fact, to point to a recent entry in the genre, They Are Billions does World War Z better than World War Z. In Numantian Games' RTS, zombies swarm your defenses in tidal waves, coming from random directions, pouring through choke points, and overwhelming your carefully prepared defenses. On its website, Numantium claims it can have 20,000 zombies on screen at one time. And after 40 hours with this game, I can confirm that's true. With this kind of scale, They Are Billions shows just how helpless your colony can be. Of course, zombies aren't just scary because of their numbers, but also how they multiply. Here, too, Numantian uses clever systems to heighten the tension. In almost every other RTS, one basic grunt unit won't usually lead to game over. In They Are Billions, however, that one basic zombie can infect a small building, spawn a few more friends, infect 2 more buildings, and so on, until a horde has formed behind your walls in a matter of seconds. These massive swarms of enemies are all the more terrifying when you realize just how dangerous each individual unit can be. All of this adds up to a game with an extremely strong identity. It's a steampunk, post-apocalypse, zombie RTS, and all of these components are essential in creating an exhilarating experience. It's a deep strategy game. It's a terrifying zombie entry. It uses procedural generation to its advantage, and even now, I can't wait to play more. Because not only is They Are Billions thrilling, but it's one of the best real-time strategy games to release in the last decade. This is high praise. Contrary to recent refrain, the genre has not been dying, and it certainly is not dead. This sentiment ignores games such as Total War, Warhammer 2, Homeworld, Deserts of Carrick, or the exceptional Off-World Trading Company. Whether through large-scale battles or economic management, these titles offer fresh takes on the RTS legacy. And what a legacy that is. Some of the best PC games have sprung from this lineage. We have franchises such as Command & Conquer, Age of Empires, and Total War. Not to mention licensed games such as Star Wars, Empire at War, or Battle for Middle-earth and its sequel. And of course we have Warcraft, Orcs and Humans, the game that would spark a franchise and become the breakthrough hit for one of today's juggernaut developers. It was Warcraft's competition with Command & Conquer that sparked the RTS boom of the late 90s. While Westwood Studios' series emphasized military action, Blizzard pursued story and characterization. This rivalry gave birth to Starcraft in 1998, another Blizzard project that proved successful, bringing the studio's refined RTS formula to a sci-fi setting. But it was Starcraft 2 in 2010 that truly refined that formula. It took everything that made its predecessor excellent, except local land capabilities, and amplified it even more. Its factions have distinct identities and playstyles. It tells an engaging story with memorable characters. And like many Blizzard games, its systems are easy enough to learn, but very difficult to master. It's one of the best real-time strategy games because the individual parts of its identity are all essential to its overall design. They Are Billions continues that innovative legacy. And as of now, 500,000 people have tried it. It may only be in early access, but it is one of the best real-time strategy games in years, and one of the best zombie games to date. If you've been craving an intelligent RTS that reveals new depths each time you play, They Are Billions is your game. If you've been craving a great zombie game in a landscape where they are oversaturated, They Are Billions deserves your time. However, before we go, I do have one piece of advice. Always remember the Maginot Line.